stay with the sound of my voice. There is nothing you need to understand right now. Nothing you need to solve. Nothing you need to hold together. You're not here to improve yourself tonight. You're here to rest. You don't need to focus on these words. You don't need to follow them closely. If your mind drifts, that's okay. If your attention fades, that's okay too. There is no right way to be here. And there is nothing you can do wrong in this moment. Your body doesn't need instructions. It already knows how to breathe. You don't have to slow your breath. You don't have to relax your body. The moment nothing is required of you, your body begins to soften on its own. There is no urgency here. Nothing is chasing you. You don't need to be ready for anything. You don't need to prepare for tomorrow. Tonight does not need a plan. Tonight only needs space. You may notice how much effort goes into holding yourself together. Holding your thoughts. Holding your emotions. Holding your awareness in place. And for now, you don't need to hold any of it. You don't have to let go. You don't have to release anything. Simply stop holding. Whatever remains unfinished can remain unfinished tonight. Nothing important will be lost by resting. Nothing meaningful will disappear by pausing. You don't need to try to relax right now, and you don't need to make yourself feel calm, because trying itself creates effort, and effort is not something this moment is asking from you. You don't need to try to fall asleep. You don't need to guide your thoughts anywhere, and you don't need to move toward a certain state in order to be allowed to rest here. This moment does not require improvement, correction, or control. You are already allowed to be exactly as you are without changing a single thing. Your body understands safety long before your mind has time to analyze it, explain it, or question whether it makes sense. It responds naturally to permission, to the absence of pressure, and to the quiet realization that nothing is being demanded of you right now. When nothing is demanded, the body no longer needs to stay tense, alert, or prepared. You don't need to guide this response, and you don't need to manage it in any way, because it begins on its own the moment you stop trying to control it. Control is often mistaken for safety, especially when you've been used to holding yourself together for a long time. But tonight, safety does not come from holding on, watching closely, or keeping everything in place. Tonight, safety comes from allowing things to be exactly as they are, without needing to adjust them, monitor them, or keep them from changing. You don't need to keep your thoughts organized, and you don't need to stay aware of your breathing, because nothing falls apart when you stop controlling it for a while. There may be parts of your life that feel unfinished, unresolved, or still waiting for an answer. Conversations that didn't end the way you expected, thoughts that kept repeating, or feelings that never fully settled. Tonight, none of these things need to be completed, solved, or understood. Nothing bad happens when things remain unfinished for a while, and nothing important is lost when you allow them to rest exactly where they are. Letting go is not something you need to figure out how to do, and it is not an action you need to perform correctly. It happens naturally when you stop holding, stop bracing, and stop managing yourself for a moment. You don't need to release anything, and you don't need to push anything away, because simply noticing that nothing is required of you right now is already enough. Allow that realization to do the work for you without effort and without direction. You don't need to keep any effort going right now. Not the effort to stay aware, not the effort to listen carefully, and not the effort to make sense of what is happening. Whatever effort you've been carrying throughout the day, whether you noticed it or not, is allowed to come to an end here without needing permission, without needing a reason. This moment does not reward effort, and it does not require participation, because everything that needs to happen can happen without you doing anything at all. When effort is no longer necessary, the body begins to release in ways the mind could never force or plan. Muscles soften without being told to relax. Breathing finds its own natural rhythm without being guided, and awareness no longer needs to stay alert in order to feel safe. You don't need to observe this process, and you don't need to stay present for it, because it continues quietly in the background, even if your attention drifts away completely. There is nothing in your life that needs to be resolved tonight, nothing that needs a conclusion, and nothing that needs to be decided before you are allowed to rest deeply. Problems do not become more dangerous when they are left alone for a few hours, and thoughts do not become more powerful when you stop paying attention to them. In fact, many things begin to settle naturally the moment you stop trying to resolve them and allow them to remain exactly as they are. You don't need to stay aware in order to release, and you don't need to witness anything changing for change to take place. Release happens just as easily when you are distracted, drifting, or already halfway into sleep. There is no moment you need to catch, no realization you need to have, and no experience you need to remember. Everything can settle now, not because it has been fixed, but because it no longer needs your attention. You can allow yourself to drift as deeply as you like, knowing that nothing important depends on you staying awake. From this point on, you don't need to listen closely anymore, and you don't need to follow the sound of my voice in order for it to be effective. The sound can remain in the background now, like something familiar and steady that does not require your attention. You don't need to remember these words, and you don't need to stay awake for them, because your body already knows how to receive what it needs without effort. Things can begin to settle quietly now, not because anything has been forced to change, but because nothing is being resisted anymore. When resistance fades, alignment does not need to be created. It simply becomes noticeable. You don't need to think about your life, your future, or what comes next, because what belongs to you continues to move toward you naturally, even when you are resting. There is nothing you need to ask for right now, and nothing you need to want intensely, because wanting creates tension, and tension is no longer necessary here. What is meant to come together does not require your effort, your focus, or your belief in order to move. It responds to ease, to space, and to the absence of pressure. You are allowed to receive without watching for results, without checking for signs, and without staying aware of anything changing. Receiving can happen while you are drifting, while you are sleeping, or while your attention has completely faded. You don't need to turn this off. You don't need to stay awake. Let rest complete what effort never could stay here as long as you like. You can allow everything to settle even more now, not because it needs to change or disappear, but because nothing here requires your attention in order to continue, and there is no reason to stay alert or involved in any way, as the sound can remain with you quietly in the background, while awareness drifts naturally, gently, and without direction. You can allow your body to continue doing what it already knows how to do when nothing is being asked of it, when no effort is required, and when there is no pressure to notice, understand, or respond to anything at all. Because rest does not need to be supervised, alignment does not need to be monitored, and receiving does not depend on focus or intention. So you can stop checking in with yourself, stop observing how you feel, and stop wondering whether something is happening. You know that change does not require observation in order to take place. and that the deeper systems of your body respond best when attention fades completely, when control is no longer present, and when nothing is being held in place, allowing whatever has been quietly rearranging beneath the surface to continue without interruption, without confirmation, and without needing to be brought into awareness, as everything that belongs to you continues to move naturally, steadily, and without resistance, even as you rest, even as you drift, and even as consciousness loosens its grip. Because nothing important is delayed by sleep, nothing meaningful is lost by letting go, and nothing that is meant to remain will require effort in order to do so. It is safe to remain exactly where you are, safe to let the night carry you forward, and safe to allow the sound to fade further into the background as the body settles deeper, softer, and more completely. Knowing that you do not need to stay awake for this to continue. You do not need to stay aware for this to unfold, and you do not need to do anything at all, as rest completes what effort never could. Everything that needs space already has it. Everything that needs time is already taking it. And everything that is aligning continues quietly, gently, and naturally, without asking anything from you. And as that permission to do nothing washes over you, you might begin to notice that the boundary between thinking and dreaming is becoming pleasantly blurred. Not because you are trying to dream, but because thinking has simply become too heavy a garment to wear, and it feels so much better to simply let it slip off your shoulders, leaving it there on the floor of the mind, knowing that you can always pick it up later if you wish. But for now, the freedom of not knowing is far more comfortable, far more soothing. And in this space where concepts soften and definitions dissolve, the deeper mind, that wise, silent archivist within you, can begin to sort through the experiences of the day, filing away what is useful and discarding what is not, washing away the static and the noise with a gentle rhythmic tide of relaxation that moves from the top of your head all the way down to the soles of your feet, doing this work entirely on its own so that your conscious mind is free to wander, free to float, free to be anywhere or nowhere at all. You may find that even the effort of listening is becoming optional, and the words I speak can simply become a texture in the air, a comforting vibration that lets you know you are safe, allowing you to drift into that velvety space between moments, that gap where time ceases to measure anything, where minutes might stretch into hours, or hours might compress into seconds, and it really doesn't matter, because the clock has no authority here, and the demands of the world have been locked outside the door, leaving you in a sanctuary of pure existence where simply breathing is the only task, and even that happens by itself. So you can trust that whatever needs to be resolved is being resolved. Whatever needs to be healed is being tended to by the intelligence of your own biology, and you can simply enjoy the sensation of sinking, drifting down through layers of comfort, past the layer of heavy limbs, past the layer of quiet thoughts, into that profound, silent center where you are simply carried, supported, and deeply, completely at rest. And as you settle into that stillness, you might realize there is a profound relief in understanding that there is no destination to reach right now, no goal to achieve, and no performance to give, because this moment is complete in itself, holding you in a suspended state of grace where the expectations of the world simply cannot reach you, like a diver resting comfortably at the very bottom of the ocean, watching the storm clouds far above on the surface, knowing they do not affect the calm, clear water down here. Allowing the breathing to become a rhythmic lullaby that sings itself, a gentle rising and falling that happens without you needing to command it, mirroring the tides, mirroring the seasons, connecting you to that ancient, steady rhythm that has always been there, waiting for you to stop trying so hard so it could take over and carry the load for you, so that even the concept of you begins to feel pleasantly vague, expanding out into the room, blending with the shadows, becoming part of the quiet, until there is only the resting, only the breathing, and only the peaceful, heavy, warm sensation of simply being entirely free and deeply asleep.